Welcome Capricorn to your in-depth monthly forecast for July 2025. At the heart of the month, your ruling planet Saturn is going to go into a retrograde through to the end of November. We also have on the 10th a Capricorn full moon. So what's the implications of all this? Because as you start the month, the Sun and the lovely Jupiter are in your sector of relating. In fact, the Sun is forging a high energy link to Mars. If there is someone that you're chiming well with, you could do something really exciting together through the first week of this month. Not least because Venus and Uranus are also forging a stimulating link in your sister Earth sign of Taurus. But then on the 4th, Neptune, the planet of dreams, goes into retrograde in your home, emotional and family sector, to be followed by Saturn on the 13th. And just while we're on the topic, also by Chiron on the 30th. But also at the start of the month, Mercury is preparing the way for its retrograde on the 18th by going into its pre-retrograde shadow in a part of your chart that really urges you, when it comes to anything to do with long-term financial investments, to manage the details of whatever you're thinking or discussing with a great deal of care from the start of the month. But what about Venus and Uranus? Because they forge that dazzling link in your 5th house. If you are someone who would like to connect to somebody, it could be that this could happen really early on in this month. But I think what the outer planet retrogrades are saying to you, and also Chiron, which is nominally a comet, what they're saying to you is that whatever relationship decisions you make, it's important that things feel right. Now that may sound the most obvious and logical statement anyone could ever make, but I think many of us have been attracted to someone that we find very exciting, perhaps good fun, very attractive in their own physical sense, but not necessarily someone that we're as comfortable with. And that's the key, because feeling comfortable is really important. And I think that those retrogrades through that sector of emotion is something to be mindful of. But then Venus and Uranus move into a much more practical area. Uranus moving into the 6th house for 5 months. If you're not particularly fulfilled in a job at the moment, don't be surprised if you're making some changes over that 5-month period. You could also reorder some part of your daily structure, which you may feel has become a bit stifled and rather predictable too. But on the 10th, we have that very powerful full moon in your sign. Essentially, while the Sun and Jupiter are in your 7th house, you're focused on the quality of your interactions, not necessarily a individual personal relationship. So it could be how you're connecting with people at work, with family members, friends, and it just gets much more attention. It becomes more visible, perhaps a little more intense, if you don't feel your relationships are working quite as you want. So that full moon can flag that, but it is forging an angle to the North Node, the point of destiny, as well as the South. But the North Node really important, because that's how you're thinking and expressing your ideas. So once your ruler Saturn goes retrograde on the 13th, anything you are considering about relationships really needs to be passed through the filter of, does it feel right? Am I comfortable? The other thing that could come up with Neptune, Saturn and Chiron going retrograde in your 4th house is your own inner world. You know, are you at peace with yourself? Is where you're living working for you? These are also very important issues. But on the 18th, Mercury does formally go retrograde. And if you are discussing any kind of contractual matter, although the Sun's arrival on the 22nd could on the face of it be very helpful and offset the potential for delays and frustrations crosswise that Mercury retrogrades can create, because the potency of Pluto feeds into the Leo new moon of the 24th. If you are discussing a financial matter or who contributes or invests what in a situation, there could be a lot riding on that conversation as this month draws to a close. Fortunately, Venus, which can be very much the planet of peace, moves into a very constructive location as the month comes to a close, and you may finally get a greater understanding of that matter that you discuss with the Mercury retrograde, as there is a Mercury cazimi as the month draws to a close. So how do we summarise this month for you? I think it can start off with great potential with Jupiter so close to the Sun at the start of the month around relationships, but they're certainly going to be tested through the lens of that full moon and also Neptune and Saturn in your 4th house. But then with Uranus, which is an edgy link, also feeding into the Leo new moon as well as Pluto, you could find yourself thinking a lot about more innovative approaches to earning money. And one of the things that the Saturn retrograde in particular through to the end of August can get you thinking about is perhaps something you can do working from home, or you can flex around your children if you have them, or perhaps even a full-time role. So it's an exciting month. It certainly begins in a very dynamic way with that fabulous link to Mars, which creates excitement. You could have that surprise invitation connection right at the start of the month, but just look inwards for the solutions for some of the outer issues that may come up as the month goes on. If you'd like to work with me directly and have a particular issue that would benefit from a one-to-one, please see my testimonials below. But also with year 2025 absolutely racing by, you can order your year 2026 personal forecast now, and I'll give you in my special offer the rest of this year free. You'll also get 30% off, but also your life roadmap report, possibly the most important document any of us can ever read, helping us to understand the patterns that are playing out in our lives so far, getting a more intimate understanding of how to work with those energies, and together with the forecast, then timing our moves as best as possible for good outcomes in our situation. Please see the link below for more.